Hi, my name is Mickie Kennedy, and I'm the owner of eReleases. And for about 27 years now, we've been issuing press releases to the media. Um, Over a decade ago, we started working with PR Newswire. They approached us and wanted to um, find a way for us to work together. They offered local distribution for a couple $100, and I really pushed back and said that my customers want national distribution. And today, PR Newswire charges over $1,700 for a 600-word press release to go out nationally. And through us, it's a fraction of the price, usually a savings of about three quarters. The caveat is you have to be a small business. And so large companies or publicly traded companies that come to us, we send them to a contact at PR Newswire so that we're a good partner. And today we issue about 10,000 press releases a year through PR Newswire. Um, and one of the things I've thought about with a book coming out and how small presses are really in a difficult bind marketing their books and their authors, I thought, hey, I should open up access to uh, the wire to them at a really good price. So I've created a price of $199 for small presses. Of course, if you're a large press, I will send you to a contact directly at the Newswire because I don't want to jeopardize that relationship. But generally, if you're under, 10 to $15 million a year in revenue, you're pretty safe to take advantage of this. I do have a coupon code as well that I'm hoping to keep alive going forward. But for this year, it's definitely good through the end of the year. For $199, you will get a national distribution that goes over PR Newswire. The real benefit of this is that if it's a meaningful and newsworthy press release, it has the potential to go wide and to get really picked up. That being said, it's hard for books to be like really, really newsworthy. And so I'm going to go over just a few tips and resources that I know that are probably more likely to get you media coverage. The media loves a good story. And, I always tell people, if you watch Shark Tank, one of the first things they do out of the gate is not talk about their numbers, but they immediately create human empathy by talking about what it was that caused them to create this business. They're often being vulnerable, sharing my dad died and we had a hobby and I was wondering if I could turn that into a business, or I got laid off and I took everything I had and said, I'm going to finally do something for myself. I've always wanted to do this. And all of a sudden, we're there championing for them and wanting them to succeed. And so, journalists recognize that any way that you can get their audience to care about you makes it more likely that they would want to cover you. And so having an interesting and compelling story is really a great way to, get their attention. With nonfiction, it's a lot easier because you can usually break through the noise and easily say in like an elevator pitch of 1 to 2 sentences what this book is about and why it is different than every other book in this industry. And most authors in the nonfiction realm recognize that I'm not going to write the same book everyone else has written. This is what makes me distinct. And so you want to take that sort of logic and apply it to fiction, essays, poetry. What is it that's here that's we're seeing that's different than previous books that are out there? Having an amazing quote is a great way to stand out. You basically want to say something that is thoughtful and distinct. Sometimes it's just using a lot of active verbs, is what I tell my regular small business customers. But people, who in the press world and authors, it could be having a really strong creative flourish. You want it so that if a journalist did write an article and they just paraphrase what you said, you know, the reader would ache if they had seen the previous quote and say, "Oh, I wish that quote was there instead of that paraphrased couple of sentences. And so that's a good indicator of whether you have a really good quote. And it's probably one of the things that people slip up and really don't put the most effort into. A really great headline and a really great quote is one of the things that stands out. When it comes to headlines, we're not looking for a New York Post pun or captivating funny thing. A journalist wants to know from the headline that this is relevant to them and what they cover. So don't try to be clever. Try to get across, the real hook or the real meat or the real strength of what you're announcing. New book in a particular on a particular subject, or a certain person explores taking a book that I'm working on, new poet explores prostate cancer as a recently out gay man. Something like that could be really like, ooh, that's interesting. I haven't heard anything like that. So sort of keep things like that in mind when you're putting together the press release. That the quote is really important, and also a really strong headline that is relevant, to a journalist who is browsing, because most of these things will appear on a news feed, and they're usually headline driven, and you want it to be a show that this could be of interest to them, and try to get them to click through to read the rest of the press release. Um, you know, um, I could go to PR Newswire and we could do a search for, let's say, press and book, and just see what other people are doing. This is good because it's like someone announcing a winner of the book of the year. And so someone who covers publishing and books will be very interested in what this one press has said distinguishes, this book we've recognized as an outstanding book by us. And so, that's kind of cool. Announcing the winner of a book prize is also a really great thing to announce. That one, not so much. Um, and you may want to play with the search if you're looking for other stuff that's out there. I guess these are just really recent ones, so not a lot there. So let's go to maybe just book, maybe author. Here's someone speaking at an event. I find these don't do as well. First, you got to get of interest to someone who's kind of probably interested in what that summit or conference is. Um, let's see. Okay, this is interesting. Hannah Anderson brings author Mo Willems' whimsical characters to life. So Mo Willems is pretty well recognized. So that's a really great mention to have there front and center. Um, you do get to include two images when you upload the press release. You are given the option to embed for an additional price. It's not relevant. It will still appear in PR Newswire like this, and that's where the journalists are going to search. So don't pay extra. Mostly it puts it on some syndicated sites, more pretty, like this, but you do not need to pay extra. I don't recommend that you pay extra. I don't recommend you pay for the micro list and things like that, or I think we call them Cision influencer lists now. But just stick to the basics. The national distribution is pretty much all you need. There is usually a boilerplate where you might talk about the press, and then maybe about the particular author. When we send them out, we include the press contact, but we do anonymize the email address. And so that reduces the spam. At a certain point, the average press release that went out generated 300 emails from just pitches and, trying to sell you stuff. So we eliminate all that and ensure that predominantly what you'll get are messages from the media. We do require a phone number, but it could be a Google Voice or something else that you find more manageable. Generally, it's not abused in the way that the email was. And Other things that I think work really well with the media is, you know, of course, following, making sure there's elements for story arc. If you look at even the most basic newspaper articles, journalists likes to follow a story arc. And I noticed that when my clients were doing product releases, it was just like, here's the product, here's some features. And I was like, oh, there's not really elements of a story arc. So no wonder these barely get picked up. But once they put like a use case study in there and other elements, they started getting pickup. So just keep in mind, are there elements in this announcement that a journalist would want, to be able to incorporate into a story? And one of the easiest story arcs is sharing some vulnerable stuff about the author. What caused them to choose this as a subject matter. Having a quote by them is really good. When it comes to quotes, uh, you may want to suggest one to the author and get their approval rather than have them come up with a quote. Authors, they write, but some of them don't really pull together a really concise sentence. So feel free to say, hey, I was thinking something like this if you want to approve it, or put it in your words or something like that. There are also, what is, talking about what's unique about this book. Also, sharing blurbs if you have them. What people have said about it is a really great way to build credibility, especially when it comes to like fiction. Fiction's one of the hardest things to get the media to respond to, because what makes fiction usually so beautiful is the writing and the dance between the characters and all these elements that you can't really easily put into a press release. So sometimes you're going to rely on the credibility that other people say about the writing to get a journalist interested. So pulling a quote or two from someone, or not including the whole blurb, but maybe a meaningful sentence or two. If they've published stuff before, or it's a book that's already been released, which it's fine to send out a press release for a book that was released a few months ago. That's completely appropriate to basically consider that the pre-launch, and now you're giving it a media push. Maybe point out what the review ratings are on Goodreads, or what someone has said on Goodreads. Anything that really sends a strong indicator to the media that this is something that they should pay attention to. And I call these credibility indicators, that this isn't just your average author. This is a book that has something unique and beautiful and wonderful about it. And you know I think that those are elements that really help quite a bit. Other things that could be done is taking publicly available data and finding a way to incorporate it into the book. This is not going to be appropriate for every book, but maybe this is a book that talks about child abuse, and maybe putting a few data points in that what percentage of people are affected by this. And it really shows the stakes of why this is meaningful. And maybe a journalist goes, wow, I didn't realize that, maybe one out of every four people grew up in or encountered abuse growing up. And all of a sudden, there's probably a large part of my audience for whom this book would be applicable. So these are some of the things to think about. If you have other things that work as well, feel free to share them with me, because I'm always looking for what's working and what's not working, and what people are doing. I feel like this is a really great opportunity for people who have something that stands out, or you're looking for something to test and try. That being said, I always tell people, don't judge a PR campaign with one press release. Generally, a PR campaign is 6 to 8 releases. So I would really love for you to be able to, test and try and see if you can't get some meaningful results over time. And feel free to share your successes with me and to take advantage of this. And it's a really great opportunity that I'm sad to say I didn't think about sharing before now, but getting ready for my book coming out made me think, this is something that should be available for other small presses, and I really hope you take advantage of it. Thanks.